GM, welcome to Morning Markets. It is October the 7th, Tuesday. What are we seeing on Bitcoin low time frame? So, since yesterday, we hit the 50 EMA on the 1 hour chart. That produced a new high. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, price looked like it was setting up for a short squeeze because we had price going lower with open interest going higher, and we held the H1 market structure. You also had spot CVD, so green, which is the market orders on the spot bid, rising, while the market orders on the perp bid was falling. So that gave me more confidence to the fact that futures were shorting, spot were willing to bid, and open interest had built up, because you saw here the divergence then formed later on, right on this high over here, where this confirmed OI rising, price falling, H1 market structure held. That produced a move to the all-time high, exactly as I said to look out for if that H1 market structure held. So another target smashed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know half of you watching these videos aren't subscribed. You don't want to lose this channel, guys, and by all means, got some beautiful stuff coming for my first 200 subscribers. If you check my description, you can get a link straight to my Telegram and message me directly with any trading questions you have. If you need any help or you just want to talk to me, hit me up there. Be happy to talk trading, talk charts, and help you guys out. But until then, smash on with morning markets, boost all these videos, because goddamn, we've been smashing all these trades and all these targets for weeks now, and don't see anyone else doing that on YouTube. So all-time high got smashed. That then led to a bleed, and we're not respecting the H1, 12, and 21 EMA bands anymore. The 50 we did close below, trying to reclaim this morning, and that's no surprise because it's pre-New York session and bulls. We've seen pretty much every day pre-New York session, they tried to front run a bullish New York session by bidding before it. And we probably even saw this on Friday. Yep. So 7, 8, 9 a.m. UTC Friday. You see the London bid trying to front run a bullish New York session, and it's played out well. They've been rewarded so far by doing that every time, and seeing that again here. And what they really need to do is start reclaiming some levels, because if we zoom out a little bit and we take a look at this chart, what are we seeing? Well, we had a huge volume push on Friday. We then have not had the same volume push on Monday. So looking at the New York sessions in particular here, ignoring Sunday, because of course that's a weekend, you don't have ETFs. Volume has fell. Price, however, has risen. So it's okay for now, as long as we can hold structure, and that is why I've mapped out this low over here. So this low really needs to hold on Bitcoin, otherwise we're getting into the territory of momentum's weakening here. Buyers are less willing as price goes higher. So you can see volume's super high here. Buyers are willing to push it up. Then on the next push, it drops. Then on the next push, which was a Monday when the Wall Street ETFs were here, you've seen an even bigger drop in volume. So less willing buyers to trade Bitcoin at the current price. And it makes complete sense, because when you go to something like the daily, it's been an up-only move. It's been just days and days and days of just pretty much endless green, barring one red day. So what you're seeing here is on Bitcoin, you had these full-bodied candles. So full-bodied breakout, full-bodied breakout, full-bodied breakout. Then you start to see a bit more of a wick creeping in. Then you start to see even more of a wick creeping in. And now you're seeing bigger wicks on the daily chart. And it's completely understandable, as I said, since you've had an up-only move, sellers are willing to take some profit here. There is less willing buyers. We can see that by the volume. However, interestingly enough, you do have ETFs going pretty ham. So if we check out the Bitcoin ETFs, we had a 1.2 billion day yesterday. So of course, BlackRock, they report a day late. So this was actually the ETF flows from Friday, which does skew this data quite a lot. But essentially, ETFs are bidding more and more and more as price goes higher, which typically can lead to some consolidation to really digest it, as you're seeing people are really aping in here, but it's being met with sellers. That's the key difference. You've got these wicks. So you're seeing these huge inflow days, but you're not seeing the full-bodied candles to confluence with it. So that's what has you just urging some caution here. And of course, when we go to the weekly time frame, still all looks good. Everything above 120k is fine. We're consolidating within the distribution after we bounced from the accumulation, which was previous distribution. So looks good on the weekly. As I said, highest weekly close, expect continuation. We got that straight away on Monday, led to a new high. That was no surprise to see. So now we're just seeing, well, are we going to break out here, or are we going to have to stall out? And that's what brings in the paths I mentioned from trade of the week. So if we go to the 4-hour chart and we put on these two paths. So of course that was the red path. That was the bearish idea. We didn't get that. Instead, you have either the green path, which is just immediate continuation higher. And if we are going to see the green path, what you'll see on Bitcoin here is we reclaim 125.7k, that all-time high. So this is the structure level which we sold off from. So if we can now get above it, that's going to lead to immediate continuation higher, because previously you set a trap, you then find a higher low, and that can be a bullish setup for new highs, and you're just constantly flushing out breakout buyers every single time. You see that time and time again on Bitcoin. Again, that path plays out if we reclaim the August all-time high, and I'd say if we don't lose Tuesday's low today. So watch Tuesday's low carefully. Don't want to go below there, I think, if we are going to see a potential move to new highs. And of course, reclaiming the August all-time high, that's your first step. And then reclaiming the all-time high, that sets up for that green path move. But if we don't get that, and instead we find some resistance, whether it's resistance from here, and we have to then bleed back down, or whether this resistance actually comes from over here and we instead reject that level, that then sets up for something more like the orange path. And from there, as you guys know from Trade of the Week, orange path, we're just looking for 120k to hold. That's the level to now flip into support. It was the previous level that we flipped from resistance, and that led to the move higher. So it's the value area high. Therefore, you just want to see that hold if we do have to go down and take out some liquidity levels. And that's where, again, I'd look for that swing long. If I see on low time frame prices reversing and holding around that 120k, and you just want to then see a base being built at these all-time highs. That's going to set up a move for higher. Strong base building is what allows sellers to switch into strong hands. If sellers are willing to sell, that's fine. But if price is going to go higher, then those sellers need to be met by willing buyers. If they're not met by willing buyers, then that's when you see something more akin to the red path. This is if 120k fails, then of course you look for lower as sellers are overwhelming and buyers aren't willing to step in. But as long as buyers can step in, it just can create a consolidation here. And that's, of course, barring the green path if we don't just continue to break out today. So watching Tuesday's low that we've currently put in here to see what way we're going to go. If we can go higher, then you're just looking for rejection or flip. And if we lose Tuesday's low, then you're looking at taking some of this liquidity out. And we go to something like the 4-hour. So 1 hour, 12 and 21 bands not being respected. So now we look to the 4-hour. What are we seeing? Well, again, you've got that volume divergence over here. But as you guys know, a volume divergence is fine as long as the market structure holds. So where is your market structure on the 4-hour? Well, it's this low over here, which has led to the most recent high. So again, you wouldn't want to see this red path, this lower red path. So let's change this path here to orange. This is if we push up and reverse. This is if we break out. And this is if we lose Tuesday's low. So red path here, not what you want to see, because taking out the H4 market structure on a closed basis then probably sets up for that orange path that I mentioned, where we have to come back down towards 120k and take out some of these lower levels over here. That's of course this path. So that's what I'll be looking at. That's your market structure level on the H4. 12 and 21 bands are holding for now though, so expect that to continue and produce new highs until it doesn't, until it stops working. So until then, those are the levels to watch. And of course, if we do start losing some levels, then you just go to your higher time frames, because really these past few days, it's been a low time frame traders market on Bitcoin. It's not been a swing traders market because it's just been a slow grind higher with endless false breakouts. No clear momentum to tell you that Bitcoin's actually marking up. It's not like this over here where Bitcoin gives an easy signal that yes, this is a breakout and we are going to continue higher. We haven't seen that full body candle. And even you go and look at something like this, best example, we've not seen this breakout consolidate above all-time high, which leads to continuation higher. You see this time and time again. At 50k, you get a breakout, clean, and then you consolidate higher above resistance, leads to the markup. And even here, you get breakout of 30k, marks up and consolidates above resistance, leads to higher. So we've not seen that yet. Now that could still come if we are going to follow that green path. But at the moment, what have we done? Well, we've come to the August all-time high, which is the resistance level. We've marginally closed above it on the daily, but there's no real markup. There's no breakout yet. And there's no consolidations, therefore, above the highs. So that is, of course, a result of Bitcoin having been up only. And it's therefore not got that same base that it had in all of these previous examples where you built that base. That's why I keep saying it's so important to build a base. Instead, we've had a very inefficient move up, which triggers sellers to step in, and buyers, even those billions of ETF flows that are coming in at the highs here, they're unable to push price higher and go into that markup phase. So if the low time frames start to show weakness, start to lose your H4 structure, that sets up that move, as I said, to 120k. And from there, you can simply look to your daily bands, and these will continue traveling up, and potentially this is where the next support comes in. As these bands start to slowly curve upwards, they start to sideways out as price goes down. You can then see a wick into there before going higher, and that builds the base that you need. And again, it's all just this orange path, and that's just going through different ways to trade it there. But that's part of the trade of the week. Of course, again, not saying we can't get the green path, but the reason the green path failed is very simple. Is you look at Bitcoin dominance and what's happened. This is what I've been telling you guys. If you're going to see a Bitcoin breakout that's going to hold a markup, you're going to see Bitcoin dominance rise, because Bitcoin needs the attention if it's going to actually go on a proper markup rally. Showed you all the previous examples, and we've since sold off from hitting the September highs. So while it isn't dumping and it isn't retracing down, this isn't what you want to see on a day like yesterday. You don't want to see traders focus on altcoins while Bitcoin's attempting a breakout. That's not going to allow it to mark up. So that's why you're seeing Bitcoin fail the breakout. It's no surprise. You're seeing things like Ethereum actually outperform Bitcoin on the day when it's trying to break out. So that leads to liquidity being stretched across the crypto market. And you're not going to see that Bitcoin breakout unless you see liquidity focused on Bitcoin. Then that's really what's stopping us from getting the green path. So again, keep an eye on Bitcoin dominance, very important. Otherwise, you're likely to need to base out, and then you simply just look to your higher time frames, like the daily, like this 120k level, when you ask yourself, are these levels holding? Can I get a move into the daily 12 and 21 bands? If so, then I'd be looking for potential swing longs. But until then, just looking to day trade Bitcoin, low time frames, working out very nicely. As I said, targets have been getting smashed this week. So 1 hour chart, those are your clear levels to hold. And those are the clear levels, of course, to reclaim as well. So just clean up this chart. You want to reclaim the August all-time high and the all-time high level to get immediate continuation. Otherwise, they hold as resistance. As I said, sellers are showing up. That's a sign of exhaustion, and you probably then have to have a move down to consolidate and build more of a base. But Bitcoin dominance is down, and what's the reason for that? Well, Ethereum outperforming, and exactly what I mentioned to look out for yesterday. Again, in morning markets, I said Ethereum is holding those 4-hour 12 and 21 bands. They're being respected, so watch for them to produce new highs. I said watch for Ethereum to actually outperform Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has hit its all-time high liquidity, and it then hit its all-time high liquidity again yesterday, which means Bitcoin is hitting the targets. Bitcoin is taking that easy liquidity, whereas Ethereum has its liquidity levels now untouched. They are now targets, and that gives bulls more of a reason to bid ETH over Bitcoin, because there is liquidity there to take on ETH, whereas the liquidity on Bitcoin's already been taken. And you can really see this through the ETFs. So Bitcoin ETFs 1.1 billion, whereas ETH ETFs only 176. Now, in that time though, ETH outperformed Bitcoin. You can see that Ethereum, this is the same high on Sunday, has broken above its high and still trading above it, whereas Bitcoin, its Sunday high, it wicked it, false breakout, and is trading below it. So Ethereum's getting the attention, it's getting the flows, it's outperforming, it's holding those 12 and 21 bands. They produced a new high, so they've been respected. Expect that respect to continue. And when we zoom out a bit, what has ETH done? Well, it has now flipped the resistance level. So this is where I said I'll be looking for trades on ETH to trade it to some of these liquidity levels. So you've got liquidity over here. You have, let's mark that out. So click. We've also got, of course, the all-time high liquidity over here. You guys already know that one though, of course. That's at 5K level. So looking to trade Ethereum now, low time frame. Since it's fit this resistance, you now want to see it hold as support. Need confirmation, and so far low time frame, it is holding as support, so we can change this to green. That's the level to now stay above on the 4-hour. And from here, I'm looking for these 4-hour bands to hold and continue to produce new highs along with this support resistance level. And I look to trade some momentum on ETH up to these liquidity targets. So targeting first liquidity and of course the second all-time high liquidity there. And basically, I wouldn't want to see ETH lose some of these impulse candles here. So you have an impulse candle over here, and this is the low really that led to that impulse candle. So an interim order block. Essentially wouldn't want to see ETH close below this level, because that probably then leads to a further flush down as you lose the H4 band, you lose this impulse candle, and then you probably don't want to be in a long on ETH. And of course, hard stop would go at these lows over here, but otherwise looking to follow the bands for potential new highs, and hopefully can even target that all-time high. So let's see if Ethereum can play out. Really nice to see it outperforming right on cue, as I mentioned in morning markets. So go to the daily on ETH Bitcoin. We're now trying to get above the 12 and 21 bands. We're trying to flip them bullish. So while we stay above them, they're at chance of turning green soon if we can hold above them. And that can lead to your ETH outperformance, where you want to be long ETH over Bitcoin. So that's why I'm very focused on Ethereum and looking at those setups to play those bands to new highs. So that's what I'd be looking at on ETH. Really nice consolidation here. Just don't want to see it close below 4.529. So that's the level for me. Now, also, we've had some big runners. We got BNB. I took a trade on BNB from Altcoin Analysis. We hit the 50 EMA on the 1-hour chart and then reclaimed the 12 and 21 bands, which was my trigger to get long with a stop at this liquidity over here. So another banger, guys. Please hit subscribe. Who else is doing this on YouTube? No one else is a real trader out here on YouTube. So make sure you hit subscribe, smash that like, smash a comment. I do this for you guys. I could be creating all this crappy clickbait engagement content, talking about buy XRP and hold it to $100 and all of that crap that gets views, but I don't. I do this stuff that doesn't get views because it's very technical and it's essentially professional trading rather than doing a video for the algorithm. So help me out, guys. I told you on altcoin analysis this weekend, one of my setups I'm watching on BNB is now that we've lost the 12 and 21 H1 bands, look to your H150. And as long as we stayed above 1090 and didn't retrace, that was a bullish setup for me. And that's exactly what he got. So back to the charts. BNB was over here when it lost the H1 12 and 21 bands, came close to the 50, remained patient, eventually hit it, reclaimed the 12 and 21 bands. That's produced a beautiful move here where I'm still actually in this long, so I've not taken profit. It is unrealized so far, but I'll be looking at the 15 minutes or lower time frames now since it's going pretty parabolic. And I'd be marking out market structure levels here. So for me, if we closed below this 15-minute market structure level, I'd be looking to exit this long on BNB while it's got momentum. I don't want to exit. You want to let your trend following wins ride. Let your winners run and cut your losers early. Very good saying in the market. So that's what I'll be doing until we see a structure break on the 15-minute, where if we close below the immediate market structure, and that market structure will move higher as we make new highs. It potentially moves up to there as we make a new high, so keep an eye on that. As soon as we close below it, that's my inval to get out and take profit on this trade. So just looking to play the momentum here until the momentum ends. Because right now, you want to be in the trend while the momentum is still here and we are going parabolic. So very nice to see on BNB. Super nice chart on the high time frame. Obviously very nice for Binance and CZ. Marketing is exchange. All the Binance whales who allow this chart to manipulate higher so much. So very nice. Daily bands holding. Broke above the daily order block and let the trend play out until the trend shows you signs of weakness. It's as simple as that. So that is it for the crypto update. If we look at gold, gold has recently hit 4K. So important chart this, of course, as you guys know. Let's see which chart is this. Gold, 4K level. That has finally been tagged. So GM to gold bulls hitting that big round number. So parabolic trend on gold. No signs of weakness yet. Daily market structure has moved to over here. So this now becomes daily MS as we produced a new high. So we mark this out. And really you're just looking for when does the daily market structure get invalidated? When do we see a sign of exhaustion on gold where something like this candle here gets immediately retraced? Potentially we see it soon where you get something like that. That more than likely leads to consolidation, which can lead to higher later on or can lead to lower. But until then, expect this to continue rising. When it does eventually consolidate, Bitcoin's going to outperform. So that's why it's a key chart to keep back of mind, because again, gold marked up yesterday, which probably again doesn't allow Bitcoin to have its markup. It's another reason why Bitcoin didn't hold a breakout. So when you look at gold, Bitcoin, again, you're seeing this reject at the level I mentioned it needs to break in my weekly outlook on Sunday night. So back into consolidation on Bitcoin against gold. Need to see this chart break out higher if you're going to see capital and money favor Bitcoin, which allows Bitcoin to have its ripping runs. Every ripping run on Bitcoin is when Bitcoin's favored over gold. So you need to see this break above this level. So that is September's high. Until then, when we look at the stock market, again, stays risk on, producing new highs after new highs after new highs. It's a slow grind high, nothing parabolic. So there's no signs of this chart needing to have a big crash or anything. And especially while those 12 and 21 bands hold, you just expect new highs. It's more of the same. Very easy in the stock market. You've got a lot of craze around AI, a lot of craze around NVIDIA. Obviously, that doesn't look great when it comes to AI. They had some big news drop with NVIDIA, AMD, and all the guys, which is bullish when you're in a stupid bull market, but eventually that's the kind of stuff that ends, or not ends. I think AI is going to be a decade-long trade at least, but leads to a slowdown in the trade when things start getting stupid. They made a big deal between AMD, OpenAI to produce a bunch of energy, and look at that. So you had a huge gap up on AMD, and that's now all retracing. So again, this stuff is stupid, but stupidity can lead to massive pumps. However, this kind of stuff is eventually going to lead to this chart cooling down and the AI bubble cooling down a little bit before it goes later on. And that can actually be the catalyst for your stocks, especially your NASDAQ, tech stocks, to actually finally have a pullback after this slow grind higher. But as long as these bands hold, 12 and 21 bands, expect it to continue. If you start to see closes below the bands, then that's when you're looking at, okay, is there some sort of risk off move coming in the markets? And that'll be seen with the dollar, of course, breaking out of this box over here. So watch that carefully. Having a strong move this morning on the dollar. If this breaks out above, then potentially there is something coming or some sort of risk off move or event on the horizon. You can see stocks pull back. Some of that AI bubble, the AI news turns into exit liquidity around that partnership, and that can trigger some risk off selling across the wider market. So on the opposite end, if this breaks down from this box, then you're looking at risk on moves across the market. Now that's the full update. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, got some links below to where I trade. If you guys do want a crypto exchange, 20% off all your fees. You get 20% cash back on a few of them, which can help out any of you that are day trading or scalping massively on your P&L. Hit those up. Let me know if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.